All right, let's dive into something that's at the absolute core of successful investing. And here's a spoiler, it has almost nothing to do with fancy charts or complex math. Nope, it's all about the battle that happens right inside our own heads, the psychology that can literally make or break your entire financial future. So let's just start with this wild idea. To succeed, you should actually seek harm and avoid benefits. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds completely insane, right? It goes against every survival instinct we have. But believe it or not, cracking this paradox is the key to thinking like a real investor. We're going to break down exactly why. You see, here's the problem. Our basic human wiring is a huge liability in the market. We are literally programmed to run away from danger, to avoid anything that feels like pain. But in the world of investing, that danger, a big, scary market decline, is actually where the opportunity is. A successful investor has to train themselves to run toward the fire when every cell in their body is screaming to run away. Look, the math of investing can be pretty simple. The really, really hard part, it's the emotional battle. It's fighting what one investor calls the devil in your heart. And to really get what that feels like, we're going to follow the personal journey of one student investor who came face to face with this demon. Okay, so let's talk about Awen. His story is so powerful because it shows that even when you know all the right things to do, actually doing them when you're under extreme pressure, well, that's a whole different ballgame. He knew intellectually that he was supposed to buy when there was fear, but he found out pretty quick that theory and reality are two very, very different things. Owen's trial by fire basically happened across three massive global crises, one after another. First, you had the sudden, terrifying COVID crash in 2020. Then came the uncertainty and fear around the Russia-Ukraine war. And right after that, the market got hit with the US-China tech tensions. Each one of these was a major test of his emotional strength. I want you to just imagine this for a second. The stock market is falling so fast that it forces officials to halt all trading. Not once, not twice, but 3 times in a row. Alan's brain was telling him, this is it. This is a huge opportunity. But the raw panic in the air, it was just overwhelming. He was completely frozen by fear, unable to pull the trigger. And this right here, in his own words, is the exact feeling he was so afraid of. The second you buy into a falling market, guess what? It almost always keeps falling, at least for a little bit. And every single tick down feels like you just made another stupid mistake. It's this brutal cycle of instant regret that just eats away at your soul. So Owen was pretty haunted by missing that massive opportunity in 2020. He was determined not to let it happen again. So when the Russia-Ukraine war kicked off and the market took another nosedive, he said to himself, okay, this time I'm doing it. This time I'm getting in. He took a huge breath and he bought the dip. And of course, just like he feared, the market kept on falling. Right away, that little voice, that inner demon of doubt, just popped right back up. Oh no, am I wrong again? Did I just screw up and catch a falling knife? Every instinct in his body was just screaming at him that he'd made another terrible, terrible mistake. It got so bad he actually sold some of his other investments at a loss just to stop the bleeding. But here is the punchline to this whole painful story. After all of that gut-wrenching fear, after all the self-doubt, after feeling like he was just making one mistake after another, where did he end up? With a 20% profit. And that just perfectly shows the massive disconnect between how investing feels in the moment and the actual results you can get if you just have the patience to see it through. So you have to be asking, how in the world did Owen manage to hold on through all that emotional chaos? Well, it turns out he was leaning on a set of core principles from his teacher, a framework designed specifically to help you get through these dark, scary periods in the market. Let's take a look at what they are. Okay, here they are, the 3 pillars. First, you have to have an unshakable core belief in your long-term strategy. You just have to. Second, you need to understand that the moment of maximum fear, his teacher calls it the darkness before the dawn. It's a signal to hang on, not to run away. And third, you have to accept that making mistakes isn't just a possibility. It's a guaranteed necessary part of learning how to do this. This table just frames the whole psychological challenge perfectly. I mean, think about it. When the market is in a free fall, just trying to convince someone not to sell everything in a panic is incredibly hard. But asking them to do the truly rational thing, to actually buy more, man, that is a whole other level of difficult. It goes against every single self-preservation instinct we have. So, knowing these principles is one thing, but actually having the inner strength to act on them when things get crazy, that's another. And that requires preparation. You have to build a fortress, both financially and mentally, that lets you withstand the psychological storm when it hits. And this part is absolutely crucial. If you want to have the courage to buy when everyone else is panic selling, your own financial house has to be rock solid. This means you only invest money you won't need for years to come. You never, ever borrow money to invest. Having a stable income is your psychological bedrock, and you never, ever go all in at once, because you have to be prepared for things to get even worse before they get better. This right here is the secret sauce. The fear of a market crash just starts to melt away when you know deep down that your day-to-day life is totally secure. That security completely transforms your mindset. Suddenly, a terrifying 30% drop stops looking like a catastrophe, and it starts looking like a 30% off sale. Your confidence doesn't come from the market, it comes from your foundation. So let's get real for a second. I want you to honestly ask yourself this question. Could you handle it if your portfolio was cut in half? Okay, now what if it got cut in half again? We're talking a 75% drop from its peak. Could you psychologically survive that without hitting the panic button? This isn't just some theory. It's a vital mental stress test. And that brings us to this really powerful idea, the air raid drill. It's exactly what it sounds like, a mental simulation. On a regular basis, you vividly imagine a total market meltdown, like down 80%, and you practice visualizing yourself staying calm, sticking to your plan, and maybe even buying a little more. You're basically weight training for your mind, so it's ready for the crisis before it ever actually happens. Now, it's really important to get this. Mastering your emotions isn't a one-and-done kind of thing. You don't just figure it out once and then you're suddenly immune to fear for the rest of your life. No way. This is a continuous, never-ending journey of practice and self-improvement. And this is such a crucial piece of wisdom. Just because you made it through one market crash doesn't mean you're going to be a Zen master in the next one. As Alwyn learned the hard way, that devil in your heart can always make a comeback. The real goal is just to get a little bit better, a little bit stronger each and every time it happens. So please, give yourself some grace. You don't have to be perfect. An made mistakes, and he still came out ahead. Even his teacher says it took him decades, before he could stay calm when it felt like a mountain was collapsing in front of him. This is a marathon, my friends, not a sprint. And at the end of the day, while teachers and guides and explainers like this can absolutely show you the path, you're the only one who can walk it. You can listen to all the wise advice in the world, but that deep conviction to actually act on it when you're terrified, that has to come from inside you. And that really is the bottom line, isn't it? When your screen is glowing red and your portfolio is tanking, nobody can physically stop you from hitting that sell button. And when the opportunity of a lifetime shows up disguised as a total crisis, nobody can force you to be brave and hit buy. That final, lonely decision rests entirely on your shoulders. So we'll end with this question, turning it right back to you. You've seen the struggle, you've learned the principles, you know the kind of preparation it takes. The next time the market storm inevitably hits, the real question isn't going to be about your charts or your strategy. It's going to be, are you prepared to face your own inner demons?